Good afternoon, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to another episode of the Jason's Take On podcast series with myself, Jason Noble, based over here in London, and my partner in crime, Jason Whitehead, over in the US of A. Say good morning, Jason.
Good morning, Jason.
Good morning, Jason. Today, guys, we're going to talk about something, a topic that we've talked in bits about on different podcasts, but it's something I think is becoming really super important in different combinations. And it's about what sales leaders need to know about customer success. So looking about from a sales point of view, what are some of the challenges we see? What are some of the changes that we need to look at from a sales point of view, but also from a customer success point of view, really to help these two groups within an organization be better aligned to deliver on our customer success. As usual, it's myself and Jason bouncing a couple of questions between us and answering and having a really fluid conversation. We'll see what direction that goes in. We're aiming for about 25, 30 minutes or so for the podcast. Don't forget, you can contact us on Twitter and on LinkedIn, our company's page. So if you have any questions or any feedback after the podcast, please do post them there. We'd love to get your thoughts and ideas as to what we're talking about, and if it resonates with you, or if indeed it doesn't resonate, and what some of the differences you might see are. As we always do with our podcasts, we like to start them off with a bold challenge question. So really for you, our listeners, what can you do differently from tomorrow to really help think more about this? So the bold challenge question for today is, what bold changes can you make to your sales strategy to leverage your customer success capabilities and help grow your revenues? So do have a think about that. And again, let us know either on LinkedIn or Twitter what your thoughts are on that. But really, a really key one there, based on the conversation today and also some of the work you're doing, what are the changes that you can make to make your sales strategy align better and leverage better your customer success capabilities? And I'll kick the first question over to you, Jace.
Okay.
Why are we talking about this? We always like to start off with this kind of question, but why are we talking about this, and why is it so important now for our sales leaders to leverage their customer success capabilities?
Yeah, I'm excited about this topic because I think it's one where we always talk about aligning sales and customer success, but people don't necessarily get into what does that mean and why should salespeople care about this? And I think bringing that to the party is going to be fun. And when we look at the way sales are done today, there's still a lot of legacy in how we sell enterprise solutions, and still a lot of people focusing on features and functions, not necessarily outcomes, or they'll talk about outcomes some, but not quite how we're going to get there. And I think the challenge now is buyers having been exposed to so much talk about outcomes and value and having exposure to so many different customer success groups from all of their different vendors, they're becoming more savvy buyers, and they're starting to ask questions now during the sales process that they never asked before, because they had some experience here. And I think since the buyers are focusing more, that's only going to accelerate. And as I say so many times, the initial buying decision is always based on hope, but the renewals are based on the experience and the outcomes. And more people are starting to ask okay, yes, we want these outcomes, but how are you going to get us there? So I think that's part of it. And then I think for me, the other part is also that salespeople, they're probably not closing as many sales as they could, and it's taking longer to close some sales because they're still focusing on features and functions, and they're not showing how their customer success program can deliver more value to the customer, and they're not really leveraging the capability that they have there to say, this is how we're going to make you successful, and this is how we're better at making you successful than any of our competitors that you might be considering, because we've proven that we can do it time and time again. So I think focusing on those issues really is going to help the salespeople. And then the other thing, obviously, with customer success that we talk about so much is we really need to focus on that customer lifetime value. And how do we get people, especially sales folks, to look beyond the initial sale, and customer success can really help there. That's what customer success is all about. So I think those are some of the reasons. What about you? Anything you'd add?
The one that really resonates with me, Jace, is the one about it's sales, because we're focusing still on product, perhaps not as much. There is the idea of outcome sales, and we are beginning to make that shift, but we're not selling customer success enough. And I think there's a huge opportunity for our sales teams and us as businesses to be positioning customer success as one of the differentiators for us that stands us out against the competition. I think that's a really key point. And I'd just like to re-emphasize that one that you mentioned.
Yeah, and I think even related to that one, what we didn't mention is a lot of companies are charging for their customer success services or have a premium offering. If you're not actively selling this as the most important thing that your customers want, you're leaving that revenue on the table too. Which,
absolutely. And it's something you can't afford to do now, with more and more organizations doing customer success and having their own customer success teams. You're beginning to compete with other customer success functions and businesses for your customers' time.
Yeah.
And it's so important to make sure that yours is differentiating itself from the competition and you're selling it correctly.
Yeah. So let me ask you then, what sort of misconceptions do you think salespeople have about customer success? And what sort of challenges do you see sales and customer base working together?
I think that's such a great question. And it's not, I wouldn't say it's just necessarily sales that have misconceptions. Quite often, customer success have their own misconceptions about what they're doing, but elsewhere in the business. But one of the big challenges today is that there are still big differences as to what customer success is in your different organizations and what it means to businesses. And it means different things to different organizations depending on their level of maturity. And I think because there are these different themes and different perceptions, it can cause real challenges for people understanding it properly and therefore be able to sell it. I think one of the big things is, sales doesn't clearly understand the purpose about customer success in your organizations. At times, not always, I'm not saying that at all. And many times, one of the reasons is the customer success team don't have a clear mission as to what their strategy is, what their plan is. And that's something that they need to make sure they do. What is your mission in the customer success function in your business? There can be also that a perception that bringing customer success in to the sales cycle, to a sales process, could slow down or even stop the sale. I'm a big believer in having customer success as part of the sales process. And I'd debate whether customer success should have a veto on the sale or not. There are some organizations that do allow that, but I think it really depends on your organization. But that, again, if customer success can veto a sale, you can see how the friction can be caused by that in some different organizations.
Yeah.
And the veto there might be for a good reason. They're not a good fit. We can't make the customer successful, but it has an impact then on the sales cycle and the sales process. I think that we also don't help our sales teams understand what a high impact customer success program with proven results, case studies, testimonials can do, and how it can help them differentiate us as a business and can help them actually close sales faster. So there's work for us to do to help the sales team understand what it is we're doing, why we're doing it, and the value it brings to our customers and to the sales team themselves. I think that they're often, one thing I've seen quite often is a perception that customer success isn't commercial, that it's something still that is more reactive, and that may be where it's come from in your organization. And quite often it's an extension of a support organization. So instead, we need to help the rest of the teams in the business recognize that customer success is really the lubricant that helps drive faster and easier renewals and more valuable expansions and upsells within our organizations. Any other thoughts you'd add, Jason?
Yeah, I think so. And I think I like all of what you just said. And I think there's still the whole misconception around how do we engage around renewals from the very beginning. And I think so many folks are just focused on that. How am I going to get this initial sale, as opposed to setting the expectation with the customer? We want to be with you for 20 years or more. And there's going to be a renewal process in here. And let's figure out how we talk about that now, because it amazes me when I'm teaching CS folks, like they're very nervous about discussing renewals with customers, and your customer already knows that you want them to buy more. This will be a surprise to no one. So let's just talk about it. And in the success chain program that I've launched with my co-founders, we actually go through and say, with sales, with customer success, and with the customer together, let's talk about how this is going to be mutual success for everyone. And let's talk about how the customer needs to drive outcomes and value so that they will want to renew, and that, yes, this is part of the renewal process, and this is the other way that you help make your vendor strong. And let's just get it out there. And I think the more that you can talk about it between sales and customer success and with your customer, the easier it is for everyone. And I think that'll break down a lot of misconceptions as well too.
I think that's such a key point, that is, isn't it? It's how do you make sure we position it like that? And our customers, we think that they know why we're in this with them, but it is a joint partnership. I really believe that you are a partnership with your customers, and this is a two-way street. There's success in this for both of us. And it isn't something to shy away from. And it isn't just about, we want to sell you more, we want to drive more value for our customers. So it's all really helping to change that conversation.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you then, Jason, what do you think we as customer success leaders or customer success teams in the business can do that can help our sales function and team? What are some of the things that we can do to help sales?
I think the more that CS teams can show sales, here's how we're going to make your job easier and help you close more revenue and help you do it faster than you can. That's something of value to salespeople, and that will get their attention. And that will probably open up the doors to them also understanding how you do it, and then why they need to provide you some of the information that sales are closing that they historically may not have been doing. So I think, part of that can be helping sales understand the opportunities here for increased lifetime value from the customer, and not just about the one-off sale. How do we keep going? How do we help with expansions? How do we keep growing this account? And again, they buy on hope, they renew on outcomes and experience. So let's talk about that right up front, and let's make that go forward. And I think that CS, since they use the language of outcomes and business value as so much of what they do, or what we do, that they can help articulate that value to the customer. And they can help articulate that during the sales process. And they can say to the customer, here's all the stuff that needs to happen between the two of us to create these outcomes that you want, that's going to get the renewals that we want. Here's what you need to do, and here's how we help you. And I think that's really important. And more, I think customers want that help. So many customer organizations, they've cut time. They're very lean these days, between having to cut down over COVID and staff and disruptions all the way through, or the other folks that have had their business explode to this, they don't have that spare capacity, and there's work that needs to be done. And I think more and more buyers are recognizing that we need to have these services and skills running because we don't have the capacity in-house to do them. How do we get them quick and easy? And I think customer success can articulate what they need and how they're going to get there. And I think as part of that, customer success can really lay out a clear, realistic plan of how they're going to get there and show what that looks like. So I think if you have a customer success team with that proven track record of achieving value, that can be a real differentiator. So those are some of my thoughts. What about you? What sort of things do you think?
I think one key thing for me is to bring customer success into the sales process and really help bring advocacy to life. You can share real examples, case studies, and talk through real experience and feedback that you've had from customers. You've worked with other customers who've done this and achieved X, Y, or Z, but bring that to light. You can share real examples that I think really help a customer understand where they could go and where they want to go with it. And I think sales, we've learned over the years that quite often you need a sales engineer or another technical expert in the sales process. So we now need to bring someone in as the customer expert, and that is customer success. And I think that is a change in thinking and changing how we do this. I think you've also got to set upfront realistic expectations as to what customer success is, what it delivers, but also what it isn't. Too often, we've said already, the risk is that because of a misconception as to what it is, we might position it wrong, let the customer know the wrong things that we do, and set those expectations up on the wrong foot to start with, which is not a good place to be. And I think you've also got to make sure that you're equipping your sales team with all of the information they need to help understand what customer success is, but to help understand how they can set better expectations with the customers as to what the customer journey looks like, what happens after the sales process is finished, who do they speak to next, but also what the experience will be like throughout the journey, who the different contacts are, and really make them understand the next step in the journey for them and what that onboarding process is.
Yeah, I really like what you were saying about being the customer expert, and sales has gotten used to we bringing the tech expert and we bring in the right people to do this. And I think the more that they can view the CS team as someone who can be that customer expert, that outcomes expert is going to be really key. And even just 2 or 3 years ago, conversations were about sales completely misrepresents what customer success does. And then when they onboard a new customer, expectation, there's a huge expectation gap, and we've got to work to overcome this. And I think a lot of that goes away when the CS folks are valued and respected enough to bring them into the sales process. And also the CS people have to understand a little bit about how to engage in a sales conversation as opposed to just a delivery conversation. So let me throw this one over to you, Jason. What sort of changes do you think sales leadership need to make?
That's such a good question. And there are a number, like we said at the beginning, this is two-way. There are changes that the rest of the business needs to make and customer success needs to make. So let me re-emphasize that. But as I said in the last kind of question there, that it's critical for you to sell customer success to your sales team. So make sure you're doing training with your sales team so they know what it is, make sure they've got material that they can understand it better, be there to answer any questions, but also that they're bringing into the sales process that it should be part of your pitch. You should be pitching customer success. So help them to do that. And if you have to kind of shadow them and do it with them to start with, then so be it. But I think it's really key to show that level of collaboration. I think both your sales leadership and your customer success leaders need to show that you're collaborating together and that both teams are working together with each other. I've worked in some of the organizations that I've been in where we've set up joint sales, marketing, customer success war room sessions, if you want, where once every few weeks you sit down and go through things that didn't work or things that went badly, things that didn't work so well, things that you'd change, but also things that went really well. And that really helps and builds that collaboration, but it has to come from the leaders in those organizations. Another thing I'd look at doing, and this perhaps is more challenging, I know it's something that we've spoke about before, Jason, but it's how do you, or can you change incentive plans that help incentivize renewal and customer lifetime value, as opposed to just being about that initial sale? Very difficult to do because you're changing the commercials for some of the sales teams. Some of you've got some very experienced account execs, but it can help shift that focus for being about just landing a deal to being about good fit customer, product fit, and the focus on outcomes and renewals. And I think that's a really difficult one to do, but at least start those conversations. I think one thing that you need to start looking at is don't sell just about product features and functions, but sell on outcomes. What are the outcomes your customers are looking for? Understand those and talk through your customers to how you're going to achieve those outcomes. And these outcomes quite often are their business impact. It's what are they doing as a business, not the services that you're providing. You're trying to help those outcomes come along, but make sure you're changing the way that you're selling. I think you can look also at solution selling, the idea that we're not just selling a service or a product, but the solution is part of a wider solution from us, or the solution from us is part of a wider solution for the customer that helps solve particular business outcomes and business problems. I think you've also got to look practically for your customers as to how do you demonstrate to them that they've achieved their outcomes? How can they show that, and how do they measure them? And how do you prove to a customer that they've achieved these results? Now, this is what your customer success function should do, but you need to be clear about how you're going to do it and how you can articulate that to your sales team and to your customers as well, as to how you're going to demonstrate and show them when they're achieving outcomes and how they're getting value from you. I think the other thing I'd say is before, typically we'd have sales might have given some lip service to solution selling, but still the focus was on product selling without any conversations around outcome. But that is shifting. And I think as part of any solution sell, you need to get the customer to identify and agree the actions that they need to take to achieve the results. And of course, customer success is there to help them do that. Any other thoughts from you, Jace?
Yeah, I think all that's really important. And as I'm listening, I'm thinking back to an experience I had years ago where I was on a big consulting project, and there was the big consultants were in Accenture and Deloitte, and they had some individual people in there, and they had some smaller consulting companies, and also the client. And everyone took on the project. Everyone was very united. It was one of the best experiences I ever had. And they said, we're a badgeless team. We're not looking at who's with the company and who signs your paycheck kind of thing. We're all in this project together. We're all working hard to the same goal. And that actually was very true. That was one of the few experiences I had with that. And I think we're trying to get to is very similar from a sales perspective of it doesn't matter if you're the customer, it doesn't matter if you're the vendor, it doesn't matter if you're the tech person or if you're the customer success person. We are creating with each of our customers a badgeless team to make sure everyone's mutually successful. And I think for a lot of software companies, especially small software companies that are very used to, we sell our software and our clients have to figure out how to get on with it. This is going to be a harder lift. When you look at companies like Salesforce or SAP or the big groups that have established professional services packages and they're used to selling both of those, it's a little bit easier. But I think if you go into this as I'm a software salesperson, that's going to be a harder mentality that you need to really get away from, I think, a little bit. So that's something that comes to mind. And I think you really start to articulate, and this is what we do at the success chain is really how do you focus the conversation from the very beginning on mutual success and talking to the customer. We need to make you successful and you need to help make us successful. And let's talk about all the resources we jointly have to do that and how we're going to deploy them together to get us there. And I think that's a very different conversation than a feature function conversation.
I love that. And I think it is that mutual success thing is so important. It's about outcomes on both sides that you're doing. And it is, like you say, it's being honest and open up front. There's a reason why we're doing this, and there's a reason why you're buying this from us, but it's understanding what success looks like for everybody.
Exactly. But it's moving out of that I'm a vendor to I'm a partner mentality with each customer. And it's just when you start to get that idea into your head and start to have that permeate throughout everything that you do afterwards, I think that really helps a lot.
I mean, let me ask the next question back to you then, Jason. How do you sell on customer success? What changes do we need sales teams and other sales professionals to make when working with prospects and clients? How should they be selling customer success?
That's always a fun one too, because I think people want those practical examples. And for me, it's shifting the conversation, not just on the what, but on the so what. So don't just talk about outcomes. Don't just talk about feature function, and get specific. Map out with the customers how you will help them achieve it and when they should expect to achieve these different results, provided they're willing to do the work as well that needs to happen. So I think that's very important. I think you can also point out to the customer that, look, we have a high caliber, proven customer success program. And by having this and focusing on outcomes and bringing that to the party, this de-risks the buying decision for the customer. If you have a proven CS team and program and processes and your competitors do not, that's a big differentiator, and it makes it a lot less risky for the customer to buy from you than from one of your competitors. And I think that message is not coming through nearly enough, if at all, at this point. So I think those are some important things. And I think focusing on customer success, you can help increase the confidence of delivering value. And you can do it for your company and for the customers, and let them know this is how we're going to get there. And I think that's really important. And the other piece you can highlight by bringing customer success into the sales processes, this is going to be continuity for you as the customer. You're going to have access to the CS team long after the sale is complete and after the salesperson's role changes or even steps back, depending how you handle renewals. But showing to them, these people are going to be here from the very beginning. They're going to hear all the same things about your goals and your challenges and why you're doing this and what you need for outcomes. And they're going to be able to move so much faster, and you don't have to worry about hiccups at handovers and that kind of thing. But I think that's really important. So I think those are a couple of things. What else would you put on that list?
I think one of the really key things is that your sales team need to understand, and we all do, that when we do customer success, it's something for us as a business to be super, super proud of. And we can use it to show that we're delivering on the product of promise, and the product of what those outcomes, the promise of what those outcomes are going to be. And it really is a company-wide philosophy and approach to doing business. And our customer success is our success. And their success comes first. And I think that is super, super important to resonate across the business and with our customers, that this is something we're really proud of and we do very well. I think at a more practical level, you need to make sure that all of your sales collateral, your presentations, your emails are focused on value and outcomes, and that we're reaffirming that the business outcomes message and not just on features. And I think that's a super important thing to do.
Yeah, I like that. And I really love what you said about, as the customer, your success has to come first. We have to have mutual success. Everyone has to get something. We get different things, but the customer success has to come first. And I think that's absolutely critical. Let me throw it to you then. What changes do customer success teams need to make to help better align and drive sales and to work with sales folks?
Great question. This is, as we said, this is both ways. So it's how do we work better together? And I think the assumption that we're making in all of this is we actually do have a high performing, high impact customer success team and customer success program. And of course, if we don't, then a lot of these things don't ring true. So I think you've got to, your baseline is make sure you've got a high performing customer success team in place and working function to start with. I think what you've got to do is prove to your sales team and your exec team and the business that you are having an impact on your customers that is significant enough and competitive enough that sales can and should be pushing it. If your sales team don't have confidence that we can deliver what we promised, then they won't sell it and push it to the customers. So you've got to make sure that you are doing what we say we're going to do. So whatever our mission statement is, have case studies, white papers, customer feedback that says, yes, this is what we do. And I think that's super important, because your sales guys can then actually sell on something that they know is the truth. I think you've also got to make sure that the customer success team clearly have their act together, they are delivering, and that they know that they're having an impact and driving customer value. That's fundamental. You've got to make sure that you are collaborating with sales, but also with the wider business. I said earlier on about these kind of joint commercial war room type meetings. Understand what wins sales have had, why they've won them, but also understand what sales haven't come through and why they've not come through. And similarly, talk about the wins and fails that we've had in customer success. Why is someone renewed? Why is someone not renewed? Why have we not been able to upsell? Why is someone churned? It's important to share that. Do it with sales, do it with marketing, but also bring other parts of the business in as you need. So do it with your product team, do it with your support team. I think it's really important as well to make sure your customer success team have some sales and commercial negotiation skills training.
Absolutely.
It is absolutely a skill, and something that a lot of customer success teams steer away from any commercial way of working. I don't believe in that. I think they should have a commercial mindset. But I always say that ultimately, if we're delivering value to a customer and the customer's getting the outcomes that they want from us, the renewal should just be a tick box exercise. Now that oversimplifies it somewhat, but it's a process. The customer will renew if they're getting value from us.
And I think to that point too, like so many CS folks that I work with, they have a mental block around what they perceive sales to be, even though they've never done them. And they're very, I don't want to be a salesperson, I don't want to sell. And the more that you can put them at ease, like it's a conversation. There's a process, there's methodology, but it doesn't have to be this intimidating thing. And you will be working with a salesperson, you're not becoming a salesperson, but you do need to understand how it works. And I think if you can get people's mindset to shift there and be more comfortable, that's going to be huge.
I think it's so important as well. And you understand better some of the challenges that the sales team have, and kind of commercial negotiation skills. That's something that's critical to all of us. And I think you've really got to help your customer success team understand more about the sales process. What I'd even encourage is have your customer success team partner or shadow with your sales team to learn firsthand about the sales process and what it's like to be on customer calls. Any other things you'd add, Jason?
Yeah, so I think those are all important things, especially like we talked about getting the mindset and the skill set differently. But I think if this is going to be part of their role, that CS are going to help participate in the sales process and support the sales team, you're going to need to look at how you structure your teams and the roles to help support sales and what needs to change there. And is there something different you need to do to help support enterprise sales and collaborate with enterprise sales teams versus SMB market, and how that might be a little bit different all the way through. So I think that's going to be important. And then obviously from that stems, you're going to need to look at workload allocation. See, do you have CS people that have the time and capacity to support sales and do their other work as they're going through? And so many CS teams are struggling now just with the sheer volume of customers that they have, that putting this on top of them is going to be a change. But that may be a legitimate justification for, we need to add headcount, we need to do something different, or there's other things that we're currently doing that we can take a critical look at and say, maybe this isn't having the impact and we should take it off people's plate to create space capacity. And then obviously, I think that the last part that I would throw in there is looking at that is you've got to figure out, do we have the right incentive compensation structures as well for CS? And you and I have talked about this quite a bit, Jason. I'm not sure that you want to give CS people full commission for every sale and have them be commission motivated, because that sort of changes the dynamics of them when they're actually doing the delivery work with customers. But there's got to be some sort of bonus or other mechanism by which they're incentivized to really have those commercial outcomes and to get it moving, whether it's something like lifetime value goals or some sort of group commission or group bonus or something. But you do need to take a look at that. So I think there's quite a bit there, and you might even go so far as to, even if this becomes a key piece of your CS job role or for a portion of your CS staff, even look so far as say, are we hiring the right people with the right aptitude and skills to do this blended role? Because I think it really is some silo busting as we talk about this. So those are just a few of my thoughts. That's pretty much all that I have. Anything else that you want to add?
No, I don't think so. I think it's this is a really great topic to talk about. I think, as I've said, there is stuff on both sides that we can do to make sure that we are positioning ourselves and our teams better for what we're selling, what impact our business can have on our customers, but focusing on kind of high impact outcomes for our customers.
Awesome. Okay, so then to wind us out, thank you so much for today. We always like to end again with the same bold challenge question. So hope this conversation's been interesting, and I would encourage you as you go forward to ask yourselves, what bold changes can you make to your sales strategy to leverage your customer success capabilities and grow revenues? I think there's a lot of things that can be done and things that you could do quickly to start to have an impact. So would love to hear your thoughts. So please let us know on Twitter or on our LinkedIn page. Would really love to hear your experiences and thoughts. So for me, Jason Whitehead in Washington, D.C., thank you so much for being with us.
And a big thank you from me, Jason Noble, here in London. Thank you very much, everyone.
All right, take care.